Island's foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It is indeed a fantastic Friday, and I've been surrounded by some excellent, high-caliber civil servants who, through their continued diligence and perseverance, continue to showcase the talent that we have in our civil service as we kick things off for our official start of the hurricane season come tomorrow. Get a chance to invite you to share with us. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And tomorrow being the official start of the hurricane season, we have a chance today, as we do every year, either on or before the 1st of June, to have in our studio a wide and varied cross-section of different agencies. And today, my studio is just filling up nicely. If the wonderful ladies don't mind me introducing the fine gentleman first, the Director General of the Cayman Islands National Weather Service, my good friend, Mr. John Tibbetts. Welcome, sir.
Good day, sir. How are you doing?
I was doing great and even better now. I mean, because you're joined by colleagues, to your right, the Director of HMCA Hazard Management, Ms. Danielle Coleman. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Great to be back on your show.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to give her $5 to say that. I mean,
it's going rate's going to $10 an
yeah, if I had given her $10, I would have got more.
We'll donate it back to the Red Cross. It's
okay.
Well, wait a minute. Did I get it right that you gave her?
To say good things.
But how come I had to pay?
Yeah. Listen, you want to play? You have to pay.
But you don't know the rules, John.
Yeah. He had to pay. I didn't give John Doe. We'll be from the Red Cross any money, so I'm kind of fearful. What will I get me today? Good afternoon, Ms. John Doe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. How are you?
Okay, see? Just well, I'm hopeful that as people will not only laugh along with us, we recognize that it's going to be a serious discussion, but there are things we can do, and I think a level of civility and laughter and camaraderie can make a significant difference if we prepare and plan beforehand. So from DCFS, Ms. Cassandra Farron, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Sterling. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm from DCFS, but also representing shelter operations.
Yes, thank you very, very much. And I was just thinking where I'm sitting here in this seat, I feel like the deal at the card table. Looking about here, man. So place your bets. No, I joke, and I was just initially having a quick, 30 seconds chat with Mr. Tibbetts relative to the past hurricane season, what this one will look like, and projections and the like. And I'm not a betting man. I get up every morning, that's the gamble I take, that's it. Beyond that, I don't gamble. But when we think of it, it's becoming, thankfully, one, more scientific as in our approach, and two, an increasing level of competence and efficiency in dispatch with which we plan, prepare, execute, and respond. So, Mr. Tibbetts, from that perspective, maybe we invite you first to give us an overview, and then Ms. Coleman, likewise.
Okay, first of all, let me look back at 2018 just for a brief second, and just say that in 2018 we had 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. The prediction for that season was very accurate. The predictions was only out by one named storm, I think it was, from the Colorado State. They had predicted in April of last year 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So that's a very accurate prediction. When they got together before this hurricane season and started to analyze the atmosphere and to see what's going on out there, they noted a couple of things. They noted, first of all, that we have what we call a weak El Nino in place. Weak El Nino means that the Eastern Pacific Ocean is a bit warmer than normal. Okay? and but more importantly, that such conditions were expected to persist and perhaps even strengthen as the season goes along. Now, if you have an El Nino in place, the El Nino does not favor an active hurricane season. It favors a weaker level season in the Atlantic Basin. So a weak El Nino and either persisting or strengthening as the year goes along is actually boding well for us in terms of what we're looking going forward. On top of that, they looked at the sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic Basin, and they're cooler than normal. So we've actually got two players in the game here that are both favorable for a weaker type season. So when the prediction came out, the prediction actually calls for a slightly below average season. Okay, the numbers that they have predicted was 13 named storms, 5 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. If you were, as I said, to look back at what they predicted in 2018, it is even lower activity than we had last year. Now, it doesn't mean that if the predictions are accurate, we won't have that many storms around. And obviously, you don't have as many storms around, you lower the possibility of storms in the Cayman area, but it doesn't rule them out completely.
It's interesting because, and again, this is where statistics sometimes can be skewed. If you look at 2018, 8 of 15, so almost 50%.
Right.
And this time you got 5 of 13, greater than a third, right?
Right.
And then 2 of 2/5.
Right.
As opposed to, a quarter, 2/8.
Okay.
So probability increase that you would have. Right, Mr. Dondo?
Well, I think you look at the numbers go back. So you look at named storms versus named storms and hurricanes versus hurricanes and major hurricanes. And that would indicate that we're going to have a weaker season than we had last year.
But it only takes one hurricane.
Only takes one hurricane, and we already got one storm. We've already had Andrea. For myself as a scientist and as somebody who's been forecasting for 30 years, I'll tell you that it does bother me a little bit that the storm that you had here recently, the Andrea, in years gone by, we would never have called that Andrea.
Why?
That's a subtropical system.
Okay.
However, scientists are changing, and they're changing how they look at things. And so they look at that same system, and they've got more advanced equipment now. So they look at it and they says, well, it's a subtropical system, but it does have some tropical characteristics to it. And so they would call it, it wasn't called a tropical storm Andrea, it's called subtropical storm Andrea. So they look at things a bit different than they do in the past. And in certain instances, there are systems that form that would not have been regarded as storm before is now regarded as a storm. How much that is impacting the numbers, I am not sure.
And that's something I was going to ask of, but maybe in a different form or at least another time, but even to the extent that we have traditionally, hurricane season, June 1st, November 30th,
Right.
Of course, we can dictate and direct to Mother Nature when and what, but do we need to expand that? And I go back to 2014, 2004-05, where it started early and ended late. Do we need to expand it because of the change in parameters of the global changes?
Yeah, I think climate change probably has a lot to do with all of this. We see so much more going on in the world right now. And again, not even going down to sort of the hurricane route, but the just flooding, localized flooding. I mean, if you look back in BVI in 2017, they were significantly impacted before the likes of Irma and Maria arrived, just for flooding. And of course, a lot of their resources were used then. So we tend to, we have the season of 6 months, but we tend to make sure that we're sort of on the ball all the time to respond to any eventuality. And again, going back to the season ahead, it may be sort of average or below average, but again, it only takes one. And also, it's not just the hurricanes. Again, you've got to be prepared for every eventuality, be it earthquake, tsunami, big fire, whatever it might be. We want people to be really prepared for anything any hazard.
Okay. With that, Ms. John Doe, from the Red Cross perspective, the training and exercise that you do either in conjunction with HMC or independently or with other agencies, being prepared, having a resilient populace that can respond, timely.
Yeah, we talk about the CERT training, and if there are any CERTs that are listening, I want to do a big shout out. It's a Friday. And shout out to the CERT. We have Mr. John Tibbetts here, who's probably the newest CERT in the Cayman Islands, or its new CERT team.
Well, I don't think we actually get the qualification of a CERT until we graduate.
Graduate in July. In July, it'll be official.
Make it official.
But you can respond now if something happens.
Yeah, but definitely.
Yes.
So he can respond. But a big shout out to the CERT teams, because the whole idea of CERT is if we have people in the community who we've enhanced their skills and they can better assess their community and find out what the vulnerabilities and the hazards and the risks are. So that's very key. They can also help the vulnerable people within their community. So each community, you've got elderly people, you've got young children, people with ailments. And just to have a team that can look out for them is very critical. But whilst we talk about hurricane season, the whole idea of CERT is to broaden it. So we say be prepared from January to December because we're looking at other hazards. It could be a fire. And I think most of the times if we can enhance people's skills, then they are better prepared and less worried, or they panic less. So yeah, I think the CERTs are a fantastic idea. And in fact, somebody called me this morning. I don't know if she's listening, Miss Barbara Connolly. She called me and she wants a CERT in her area. And the fact that people are calling us means they're concerned about their community. And I think that's kudos to the whole island, members of island taking it very seriously and how we need to get prepared. So the message is, yes, it's hurricane season, but as members of the public, let us be prepared for any eventuality.
In the preparation of the CERTs, and hopefully get a chance to continue to highlight that, and not only the sort of response due to hurricanes or some other national disaster, but just even be able to be of assistance in our communities. From that perspective, though, shelter operations, the shelter wardens, shelter managers, the people who are there, it's a hurricane, but it could be some other issue where we need to use the facilities. Ms. Cassandra?
Yes, certainly, Dwayne. As the ladies just mentioned, there could be other types of disasters that shelters have to be open. And in fact, we have in previous years opened shelters because of large amounts of rain causing flooding. And we had to open shelters in particular areas to be able to accommodate persons that were affected in those areas. Our department is responsible for shelter operations, which is a subcommittee under the Human Concerns Cluster. And just this week, we trained 140 volunteers. New volunteers are persons who had not been trained in the last 2 years. And these persons then, persons that have seen a need in the community, just like the CERT teams, a need that needs to be filled and stepped up to volunteer. So in the event of a disaster, then these persons will be called on to either be a shelter manager or to be an assistant manager. We have 15 shelters, including one run by the Red Cross. So we manage the public shelters in Grand Cayman, and then the Red Cross is responsible for their shelter. And there's quite a bit involved with shelter management that I can talk a little bit more about later.
Yes, definitely. And when we come back from a break, we'll continue the discussion. And I believe, honestly, a part of, I don't want to say the success, but the reason we've been so fortunate in recent times is the planning, the preparation, the responsiveness, but the willingness of the general populace to become involved and to be able to understand that we assist, but we assist because we have been properly trained. For those listening, 949-8037 or 949-6990. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Happy 36th anniversary, Le Classique. That's right, Le Classique is celebrating 36 years of carrying fashionable, quality leather goods. To mark this milestone with us, come celebrate Le Classique's 36 years in business with 36% off every shoe, wallet, bag, carry-on, everything store-wide. One day only, this Friday. Celebrate 36 years with 36% off store-wide. Leather crafted with attention to detail, quality, and distinction, all at 36% off. This Friday only, Le Classique, 27 Trilogy on Mary Street, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Celebrating 36 years with 36% off store-wide. Happy 36th anniversary, Le Classique.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. 3 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah, Countryside, Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive through rain or shine. Free pickup and delivery. Call Puritan Cleaners at 949-7104. You feel good when you look good.
Support our port. Support our tourism.
Did you know Georgetown's revitalization goes hand in hand with a new cruise terminal? The project will create jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities for Caymanians, and Georgetown will once again be a hub for visitors and locals alike. A capital we can all enjoy. Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port. Support our tourism.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us, and it's a distinct pleasure, honestly, to be able to have such, wonderful, dedicated, competent and committed individuals and agencies represented here, and to the wider community for being so, not just compassionate, but so diligent in bringing forward, times like this, opportunities for people to be trained and the people to be assisted when needed. As we go around the table, the Director over at Hazard Management, Ms. Danielle Coleman, the Director General at the Cayman National Weather Service, Mr. John Tibbetts, and the illustrious head of the Red Cross, right, Ms. John Doe? John Doe, representing the Shelter Ops, Ms. Cassandra Farron, and then coming over from HMCI. Well, good way to get Ms. Danny to not only introduce her colleague, but equally to share us more about the training in the CERT program. So let's start this segment off with that.
Okay, we have the lovely Teresita De Silva in the room with us. She's Preparedness and Planning Officer and often the Acting Deputy. Talking about training, again, so much of this comes down to partnerships. The CERT training that stands for Community Emergency Response Training is a very close partnership between the Red Cross and Hazard Management. Shelter Management Training is a partnership, again, between DCFS and Hazard Management. So we rely on our partners here, and we want to work together and make the most of each other. We all, bring something to the table, and I think it's really important that the training we do is together and not in silos. And so we kind of understand what happens in the event of a large-scale emergency. For example, I know the last couple of years we've significantly increased our mass casualty management training, both the actual content but also the numbers. We do it twice a year now, and that's with a massive array of stakeholders, including Port Authority, Customs, Police, Fire, prisons, and so forth. So it's all about making sure we work together to have the most effective response possible and understand each other's roles and responsibilities.
Something that, and forgive me for sort of a thinking out loud sort of prospect, but as I was looking at today's discussion and considering increasingly we're trying to get more and more numbers to be able to house people through our shelters. We have a robust building code that makes sure our buildings are as resilient as we can. But then I was looking at the population and saying, okay, through the CERT programs, through the different training, those who are qualified through Red Cross and CPR, that is a percentage of our population. Do we even know how many of our people have those skill sets? Would there, no, and I won't ask for a response, no, but as a national policy, would we even say, okay, let's have a case where our country, sort of like Switzerland, for instance, has this people trained where there's a responsiveness, not a goal to be achieved overnight or in one election term, but as a goal. Is it too idealistic? Is it even feasible? But the more was to have a basic training. The Red Cross would be happy, Ms. John Doe.
I think that's a very good idea, actually, because if you think about companies being little communities,
yes,
we do know how many people in each company are trained, so that could be one start.
Right.
But even in the community, so that you know where your resources are. So if you think about it, it's just like the AED machines. You know, we've got AED machines all around Cayman, and I don't think there's actually one registry. And I know HSA is trying to work on that. I think EMS actually is trying to figure out where are all these machines, because if you call 911 and somebody's down, the first thing is, where's the nearest AED machine?
Actually, that's currently being worked on between DPSC, a private individual, and hazard management.
So that would be really good, because that's something we've been pushing. And that way, at any time, you can save a life if you know exactly where the machines were.
And see, this is why I think when it comes to the CERT programs, and I am very much a strong proponent of it. So if I brag on them, promote them too much,
carry on. We love it.
but the idea that for our people, I mean, I could be the beneficiary of it. But equally, if we live in a community and your CERT becomes your community group, you don't need a competing, not even complementary neighborhood crime watch program. You don't need another competing other thing. It's all under the umbrella. And with the safety and security, you may also have someone who's handy. I mean, she may know how to wield the hammer, quite well, and I may need little assistance. You're creating ownership within our communities.
I think that's really a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, the CERT training covers fire safety, first aid, damage assessment, search and rescue, disaster response. I mean, it's such a wide range, a 32-hour program, plus the first aid. So it's a really, really intense commitment. But at the same time, the benefit you get out of it, and of course, it's completely free of charge. So the benefit you get from a community perspective is a really good, a massive asset to both at the National Emergency Operations Centre, but also, of course, to the community itself.
And to the individual. I mean, I've seen a couple.
And to add to that, I think one of the key aspects of the CERT teams is that they do identify the resources in their community as well as the skill sets in their community. So in the aftermath of any event, whether it's a hurricane, fire, or earthquake, they know who to call on, where the resources are located, and how they can better sustain themselves until emergency response can get to them.
Yeah, it is so amazing that the community response activities, that we're not leveraging more of what we have. And sadly, so much would become entrenched into other extraneous activities.
Well, as somebody that just completed his CERT training, I'm talking about like last Saturday. We're in the process right now of doing our graduation, and that is.
Has been postponed. Oh, come on, that's not funny.
No, but I think one of the things that's kind of missed a little bit in this is that where's the edge of your community? I mean, right now the community group that I represent is the Savannah Meadows area. But after we do our priority, which is the Savannah Meadows area, when you start to go south of us, there's no CERT team there. And so the team there with that skill set may be able to spread outside of our community to help out other communities as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things, obviously, is one of the big significant parts of their job is like a damage assessment. Okay, so that the government services, when the government services finally get out to the Savannah Meadows area, they will know what to expect and what kind of things that they're going to need to deal with. Okay, and if we've finished with Savannah Meadows and we've already assessed Savannah Meadows and we can handle what we have in Savannah Meadows, then that team with their skill sets can then move out and start to help the country in other ways as well, and help other communities that have not yet developed. But the interesting part about the CERT team in Savannah Meadows is that the possibilities for other CERT teams are spinning off from it. One of the very curious stories that happened with us is that we were meeting at Savannah School for the classes, and there was a representative that came to the training And he came to the training. I don't know if it was an accident or whatever it was, but he is from Georgetown, from the swamp area. And he came to all of the training sessions, but he's not from the Savannah Meadows area. Now, my promise to him basically is that he helped us, he supported us in all that he did, and so I'm going to support him, and that is I'm going to work with him to try and develop a CERT team in his area with HMCI and their time constraints. We've also talked to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They're very excited at the possibility themselves. So there are other CERT teams and other CERT possibilities that will spring out of whenever you do one training. So,
indeed. Ms. Danielle?
Just going to the damage assessment conversation. So we've just developed a really good app. So the CERTs will be trained in the app. And again, once we do get activated for the NAOC, they can provide that information straight to the NAOC. So we know exactly what we're dealing with, what kind of assessment we need to do, what kind of relief distribution we'll need to do in that community. So they really do play a hands-on role, both during, before, and after any emergency.
You know, we should say activated. I think it was superheroes.
Well, they are. CERTs are superheroes, and they are definitely the first responders.
They're the eyes on the ground, really.
Yeah. And something that Mr. Tibbetts shared, I think that increasingly we're starting to see as the communities grow, not just with the sheer numbers, but with the developments, the new roads they're going through, where one community was traditionally identified as a community may merge and meld with another, but the encompassing areas can be serviced, but it also can be isolated at times too, depending on how things go. Ms. Jondo?
Absolutely. We saw this with the Prospect community. So they were the Prospect CERT initially, and they've sort of broadened, and there's also the Red Bay area. And what they've done is they've used their skills to help out that area. They have a WhatsApp group. They keep in touch, and they basically try and solve issues together as a community. And I think that's the initial essence of CERT, is that in the absence of a disaster, they're still doing things within a community level and always helping the most vulnerable within their community. So, yes.
And that's where the ownership, I think, it comes back to you being your brother's keeper, but equally. Ms. Cassandra, the idea of the shelters, they're available once something has happened that we need to utilize them. But, prayerfully it won't happen. But share with us.
The shelters are open from the alert phase to the all clear. And we say through to the all clear, but, I mean, at the all clear, we never know what the situation will be out there. So shelters may have to be open for much longer, and I think we saw that situation in Hurricane Ivan. So persons that are volunteering, as shelter managers, might have to be in place for, perhaps up to weeks later. So with our volunteers, then we must ensure that we have a good size group of volunteers so that we can appoint somebody as the manager and then also have several assistant managers. So with the sizes of the shelters, they range from, I think, holding 80 persons up to 1,150 persons. So our shelter managers might be the size of a group of 6 persons up to perhaps 16 persons. And I think we also need to be mindful that in the event of a disaster, some persons might not be on island. And then we want to make sure that while the storm is happening, when, the shelter is open, that our shelter wardens or shelter managers, as they're now called, are able to get appropriate rest as well. The good thing about it is that we don't work alone. We have a team of support persons in there as well, the police, who are in there to help maintain safety and security. And we also have the Red Cross who are there, and they provide first aid volunteers to work in our shelters. Out of the 15 shelters, we have 7 emergency medical shelters, which are staffed by medical personnel from the HSA. And we have at least one of those in every district.
We also have child protection officers in the actual shelters themselves, because that's a vulnerability in itself.
Yeah, so those persons are from Department of Children and Family Services. Our staff is involved very much in shelter management. So if they're not assigned during a during a storm, they will be assigned after. In particular, child protection, persons are, a lot of families are displaced after a storm. A lot of persons are experiencing the state of trauma still, so we want to make sure that there's an awareness of child protection. After Hurricane Ivan, we saw quite a bit of persons sending children overseas or sending them to live with other persons while they're trying to rebuild. So we want to make sure that, families have good child safety plans in place as well.
That's something I think that sometimes and hopefully we are getting to a point where we address that, but when we're thinking of planning for, let's say, a hurricane, for instance, do we have food, water bottles, flashlights? We've got to shut us up. We have all those things, but the emotional, the psychological, those are the things that transpire. When the family is separated, for instance, because of just something. All right, Ms. Cassandra, are we prepared?
Yeah, working as a shelter manager, we try to prepare our managers that they will deal with all types of personalities, all types of scenarios in there, but they really are the key decision maker. There'll be situations where people might come in under the influence. Persons might, not want to leave their homes, and they actually were brought there. So there are many different scenarios that we'll have to deal with. Our main focus really is saving lives. But we also have to try to make sure that we maintain safety, maintain comfort, are able to problem solve during all of these things that are going on in the storm, be able to provide information to persons. So it is just something that we try to provide enough training to our volunteers, but also during the storm, they're not left alone. Through radio communication or cell phone communication, they're able to reach the NEOC through the chairperson of the shelter operation. So we can direct, through the NEOC, direct any particular resources there to them. One of the things also that we ask our shelter managers to do is they must register persons, and we must know any particular occupation that the person holds. So if there is any situation that we need to call on some of the shelterees to be able to assist, that they can do so. We might have teachers in there. We might have persons with a medical background that can assist. We might have some counselors that can assist us as well, that we need to be able to pull on that, because shelterees also have to have some duties in the shelter. They don't, and that could include cleaning as well.
Well, the good thing with the increasing number of radio talk shows, we do have some entertainment with the talk show hosts being in the shelters. When we come back from our break, let's continue talking and hopefully invite the listeners to be a part of it. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Flow, we know that 4 are better than 1. Introducing Flow Quad Play. Packed with the fastest, most reliable broadband, the power and control of Flow Evo TV, Cayman's best mobile experience, and tons of home phone minutes, all in one convenient package from only $199 a month. With 4 plans to choose from, you're sure to find one that fits your needs. It's value, ease, and convenience all on one bill with Cayman's #1 network. Find out why 4 are better than 1 with Flow Quad Play at discoverflow.ky. Terms and conditions apply.
Ahoy! Pirates Week food and craft vendors reserve your stall starting June 3rd. All food vendors must use biodegradable containers and utensils. And don't forget, a valid food handling certificate must accompany your application. Learn more at piratesweekfestival.com or call 949-5078. There's limited space, so register early starting June 3rd.
The Cayman Islands Conference of Seventh-day Adventists invites you to their 125th year anniversary social at the East End Heritage Park.
On Saturday, June the 1st, 2019, starting at 8 p.m.
Come celebrate 125 years of Adventism in these islands.
There will be food and fun galore.
All are invited.
It starts at 8.
So make it a date.
And don't be late. See you there.
These are our kids, and just like your kids, it seems that what we tell them goes through one ear and come out the other. But guess what? When it comes to making tough decisions like whether or not to drink, note that kids say that parents have the biggest influence more than anyone. So talk to your kids. Let's work together to stop underage drinking before it starts. This message is brought to you by Radio Cayman and the National Drug Council.
Talk Today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I trust and pray that this will be, with all the great respect to the planners and those who prepare, because as they say, if you prepare and you plan and you be ready, then you can respond much more easily. But my prayer and petition is that we don't have to worry about that, because there'll be no hurricanes here or anywhere. But thankfully, we have the good people of Miss Danielle Coleman of HMCI, Mr. John Tibbetts from our National Weather Service from the Red Cross, Ms. John Dobie, and our Shelter Ops. I see the liaison manager extraordinaire, Ms. Kashanda Ferrum, coming all the way through via DCFS. And, I was just thinking, Mr. Silva, I was just thinking earlier, as Danny was sharing, sometimes she sits in as the deputy and as the acting. I'm thinking, Miss Danny, you could take an extended vacation.
I would love to take an
extended vacation. Mr. Silva, I mean, it's not like she's going to be...
she might be preoccupied for the season.
I'll be... So your season might be... literally have your hands full.
She has a lot of hurricane babies. We have, hurricane baby.
Actually, I was thinking that earlier, though, when we were talking about the preparations that we do. And things happen unforeseen, but even in the preparation, the person may be away. All sorts of things can happen. But for that individual who has some of the issue, maybe something traumatic triggers a traumatic episode, and they're psychologically impacted. But a young child just born a day or two prior or a week prior. So many considerations. But invite us. I invite you, Ms. De Silva, to give us a perspective. If we look at the whole psychological aspects of it.
Well, with HMCI, what we've been trying to do, I've started to do, is try to, implement or institute a psychosocial aspect to our structure. Because what we've identified is a lot of first responders will be out there, working hard, seeing a lot of stuff that normal persons wouldn't normally deal with. And if they aren't mentally healthy, then they can't really assist anyone. So what we want to do is make sure that ensure that we have some type of system in place, whether we partner with Infinite Mind Care or EAP or other persons, to provide this service to them, that we take care of the first responders as well as the persons inside the NEOC, because we're going to be going on 12-hour or 24-hour shifts, and it's just going to be non-stop. And oftentimes when the adrenaline is going, you forget to take care of yourself, and you start to burn out, and you become exhausted. There may be different aspects going on at home that can now affect you at work. So we really identified the need for our psychosocial team to come in the aftermath and to assist our emergency responders as well as persons in NEOC to make sure that our mental health, our emotional health is intact, and we're not suffering from traumatic stress.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think for many of us, and I would even want to say majority, but perhaps many of us, we don't appreciate. We're probably by nature responding because it's our jobs. We probably do those jobs because we feel that's our calling. It's intrinsic in us. We want to help. But are we taking care of the mental? We probably can sustain the physical aspect of it for a period of time. But, Ms. John, though, that can take its toll very quickly.
No, absolutely. And yesterday the Red Cross had its pre-hurricane meeting, and we had Mr. Tibbetts giving us a talk about hurricanes. So we talk about the hurricanes, but when we had the sign-up for the volunteers to sign up where they would work post-disaster, one of the categories was called hospitality. And the reason we have that is, again, you've got the volunteers going, but we need who's going to take care of them. And so we actually had volunteers sign up, and they said they will take care of the responders. And that's very key, because we tend to forget that. So while we're responding, we need people to take care of us as well, yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how, as you were sharing, Mr. Arcida, the notion after Hurricane Ivan, looked at some people, even when they were faced with, all of the physical loss. Thankfully, there was little or no loss of life. But, the thing that affected some of the people I'm thinking of as I cast my mind back, the pictures, the little memento that had little or no value financially, but it was important to them. And that was what was affecting. You watch them looking at it, you watch them talking about it, you listen to them. And if it wasn't for people drawing alongside and appreciating, okay, well, let's see what we can do with that. who knows how many other people could have been so negatively impacted by it, without us being consciously aware. So.
Correct. And I think one of the ways that the traumatic stress can be reduced in children is that families take the time to prepare with them.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, having hurricanes and earthquakes as a myth, start to talk to them, debunk the whole effects of a hurricane. That way they know what to expect. It's not, it's not new to them once they see it. They don't think it's their fault. They don't start blaming themselves, and you don't become frustrated because they're asking questions as to, why did this take place. So just by sitting with them and creating a family plan, even making them create their own little emergency kit and getting them involved, it helps to reduce that stress in the aftermath as well.
Well, I hope people will take it on board because you said it, and I hope that they recognize that our children are never too young to understand, to get involved. And they're not only resilient, but they're much smarter than we give them credit.
They are.
And if you allow them to take, like you said, put together their little plan, maybe it's a little ball that they like, a little marble, a little doll, a toy, something that they feel connected to. Put that into it. It'll help them, right?
It will. It will.
I think Miss Deanna and Miss Linda were very helpful this week with the shelter management training, but Miss Deanna pointed out that one of the biggest things that came out after Ivan was children being obviously very traumatized of the loss of their pets. Pets is a significant thing. We realise that a lot of people wouldn't go to shelters, public shelters, because to date we haven't been allowed to have animals in there, but we're really, really happy to announce that we do have 2 animal-friendly shelters for this season. So we will be announcing that very soon as to where they are. But again, it's an exciting addition to our shelter management program because pets are such a big part of many of our lives, and to lose a pet with all the rest of the trauma is very, very difficult in a hurricane setting.
And these pet shelters are not a drop and go.
Yes,
you have to shelter
be there
with the pets,
and you have to make sure you have the appropriate crate and goodies for your dog or cat. And that's say pets. We're talking about dog and cats here, as opposed to tarantulas and snakes and whatever else at this stage.
The drop and go for the husbands or other shelters.
You can't drop those either.
You sure? She's like, I don't know. No, but we laugh. But this is why I think this discussion every year I look forward to. Simon helping to facilitate it, because we don't see how encompassing, sometimes the little things can almost get overlooked, or how others who are not paying attention don't appreciate how significant that little thing may be. But it's all, part and parcel of being safe, healthy, physical and mental. If I may, before we go to the break, though, the characteristics or the things we're looking for in some of the people who train for shelter managers, not shelter wardens. I guess I need to get a little more correct.
Wardens was a term we used to use. It's now called shelter managers. When we put out for volunteers, we didn't ask for any particular skills. We just wanted people who are reliable, persons who are responsible, saw this need and were able to help. When they signed up, they were asked to complete a form, where they had listed any special skills, any second languages and such. I mean, all of those things will be important to us when we're looking to select the manager and the assistant managers. But in particular, there were no, special skills that we particularly asked for. And so the persons that we or persons who are going to be managers, a lot of them have been doing it for us for many years. A lot of persons as well who are involved in shelter management during Hurricane Ivan, although we recognize still a lot of those persons have moved on. So we need the new persons, and we just welcome whoever comes forward.
And then let's reach out and contact. What's the best way from? Again, just repeat it.
Well, we just finished our training for the volunteers, but we're going to be doing another training coming up next month. Now, a more detailed training for the persons who are going to be managers, because there's a lot of admin responsibilities to that role. They have to make sure that there is a special log that's kept. There's a lot of inventory. There's a lot of registration of persons. So we're going to be doing a lot more scenarios with them as well. There's a lot of practical learning, things that persons, need to be able to make decisions on, key decisions on that could in fact save lives. So we want to make sure that those persons have that training. Yeah.
All right. Well, news break looms. When you come back, we'll continue. Some of you will remain. Others will be relieved that you have to. We'll see who draws the luckiest straw. When you come back, we'll talk today.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Deputy Governor's 5K Challenge is celebrating its 6th anniversary by selecting 3 causes to benefit from the 2019 event, which is taking place in September. With a focus on stepping up the mantle to support the most vulnerable and reduce stigma, the beneficiaries this year will be the Cayman Islands Crisis Center, the Special Needs Foundation Cayman, and the Alex Panton Foundation. A heavily tattooed internet star has taunted police in Australia from his Instagram account after a warrant was issued for his arrest. Police are seeking 23-year-old Ethan Bramble over assault-related offenses. He has denied any wrongdoing and regular updates to his social media, where he has also left provocative messages for police. The model labels himself as the world's most modified youth and has a forked tongue and tattoos all over his body. And Julian Assange has suffered, quote, prolonged exposure to psychological torture, according to the UN's torture expert. Miles Meltzer urged Britain not to extradite the WikiLeaks founder, warning that his human rights would be violated and that he is not fit to stand trial. The UK government said it, quote, disagreed with a number of his observations. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
How would you like to drive off in a brand new 2019 all-white Mercedes-Benz CLA 250? On Saturday, June 1st at Mango Tree, you could be that lucky person. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents its annual charity fundraising event, Benzorama 2019. That's right, one lucky winner will be announced at the Mango Tree on Saturday, June 1st, and that lucky winner could be you.
If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Tickets are $25 each, or 5 tickets for only $100. Proceeds from the funds raised go towards various Lions community projects. Tickets can be purchased online at eventpro.ky, or stop by one of our ticket outlets, including Radio Cayman Studios, Funky Tangs, South Coast Bar, Reflections Food for Less, and West Bay Road SO, or can be purchased from any of our active Lions community members. Benzorama 2019. We are all winners once you support the Lions and our community.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush, and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about, because they on sale this month. Dial teacher.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Make a splash at the Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Be a part of the world's richest open water event with over $100,000 in cash and prizes to be won. 1 in 7 wins. Celebrating 27 years with Swim and Win. Random prizes including airline tickets to multiple European, Caribbean, and U.S. destinations, restaurant, water sport, and health and wellness certificates. No race day registration and limited to 1,000 swimmers. So register online today. Visit flowersseaswim.com for more information. All registration fees will be donated to the Special Olympics Cayman Islands. The 27th Annual Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Proud sponsors include the Flowers Group, the Department of Tourism, Davenport Development, Cayman Airways, Flow Cayman, and Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you see me laughing, that's because, you know what, I love life. And how can you not, be so grateful when you're surrounded by such wonderful people? So, as some of our guests have left, others have been gracious with their time. I feel even more blessed today than ever. Right, Miss Julia?
Right.
That's what I say. Well, I say this with great deference to both Miss Danny and Miss John Doe. Whenever I see Miss Julia, it's inspiring, and I want to tell one tale. It's a truthful tale. She has, her doctorate, and one day I said to her, Dr. Julia, and she acknowledged it, but the humbleness, the humility, well, it's just an exam, and it's great to see that we have people like the ladies here in particular who are so competent, so committed, and through your continued study, but also being at the helm of the organizations, it's inspiring. It really is for this society.
Thank you.
So, if you don't mind, it's not Women's Month, but I think every day should be women. Now, Mr. Rankin, doesn't mean that our women, lead only. We have stalwarts, and to see I reminded people from the days of the seafarers, whether they were turtlers or whether they went on the largest schooners or whether they, just saw in the dockyards, something about the resilience and resolve in our people. So, Mr. Randy Rankin, as he tells me, reminds me, acting division manager over at the fire services. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. We have no issues with women leading.
Exactly. If I want to get lost, a woman can lead me astray. I mean, no, sorry. No, just kidding. My friend, it's not too late to leave now.
No, I'm doing fine.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. I was, as we were processing this, I was thinking that my news team was going to probably take a sound bite from our discussion, right? So I flipped a point in my head and I decided to land on you. So I want to get you to introduce, and I won't do you what I did our good friends from EMS the other day, Mr. Feber. I won't do that to you. I'll give you something else later on. But for our listeners, give us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself properly, formally, and
Sure.
I may do something else, but let me see.
Sure, yeah, no problem. My name is Dwayne Ebanks. I am the Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Caribbean Utilities, also known as CUC. And I kind of head the efforts in terms of hurricane season preparedness and ensuring that all of our response plans are up to par and that we're ready for, some of the worst case scenarios that come during hurricane season.
All right. And so to take you out of your mystery, the name is similar to my brother's, and because he's an Ebanks, no, he's not my son. He's my older brother, but that's about it. But the reason why I try to make that jest is that I think too many times we get so, I guess roll up into what we're doing with respect to our work that we don't realize that on a daily basis, everything we do can contribute to making tomorrow better. The preparation today, my uncle, before he passed, he had a plan prior to. There was this plan of, when hurricane season start, make sure you put a can away. You put a gallon of water away. By February, he had pretty much everything he in play. By the time June rolled around, he had that decades before. That's how around our elderly people looked at life. They were always making provision. They were always prepared.
I agree.
Different world, man.
Different times.
Mm-hmm. All right. From that, though, Dr. Julia, if I may ask you, when we look at utilities and water, and to a lesser extent initially, electricity, but water is that one thing that probably everybody, other than me, we miss the most. I miss chocolate, but we miss water to clean, to be able to bathe, to be able to drink, even though we may have had it secured somewhere, but to be able to take a shower after. We understand the importance of it. We know that life can't be sustained without it, but we expect to turn on the tap and the water's there. Yeah. But without you guys being prepared, and I'll bring the electricity into the second, but with great respect, water is that life-sustaining thing. How do we do as a nation to make sure we secure it all year round, but we make sure in particular times of a threatened national disasters and impending hurricane, or even when there's something unforeseen, make sure our water is safe, it's accessible, and we can utilize it.
Well, I mean, some of the key things that
Just
are there.
Put that a little closer for you. I might do. Thank you, Mom.
Okay.
Pretend that commercial. Get a little closer. Yeah. Yes, Mom.
Yes, Dwayne. Yeah, the two utilities on the island that supply potable water to our population are very much in tune with the requirements that are necessary to ensure that we're able to continue to supply water under various conditions. We ensure that we have sufficient storage capacity, production capacity, and beyond that, we have to also, as you said, ensure that the quality of the water that we supply is of an excellent quality so that you can turn on that tap and have no fear and drink the water and use it for whatever purposes you need.
It's something that I'll ask Mr. Ebanks to weigh in a second, but when we look at water specifically, there's the negative side of it if there's a flood, coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that. Yeah, it's water, but how useful is it? How do we utilize it? There's the rain, stormwater runoff, and the potential impact. But even just assume that we need water to live on, to be able to drink, to bathe, and so on. The amount of water that we use, I don't want to say waste just yet. Steam water that comes into our households to wash our dishes and our clothes, to flush our toilets, to bathe. It's the same water we cook with that we drink. Where are we with preserving, protecting, but also sort of promoting the educational consciousness of this precious resource?
Well, one of the things that naturally helps with that is that the cost of water is it's expensive. It's not cheap to make. Of course, if you compare it in terms of other utilities in the Cayman Islands, it is probably one of the lowest bills. But still, if you compare it to other nations that have different types of water, Cayman's water is expensive. And as such, you will find that most people take good care of how they use their water and use it carefully because they don't want to have a high water bill. And additionally, one of the things that they have to do is to ensure they don't have leaks, because those leaks can be devastating when you may get a bill that is extremely high. Right. So fix your leaks and ensure that you don't waste your resources.
Indeed. If I ask Mr. Rankin Dwayne, Mr. Ebanks, if I speak to in relation to not just the safety of it, but when we're looking at down power lines, for instance, obviously the spark in there, most of us probably will, ignore them and say, let's not go touch them. Hopefully that'll be a sign. Most of us hopefully will be sensible enough to say, okay, not only will we stay away, but let's call the appropriate, sort of agency, 911, what have you, and report it and the like. But in the absence of that, when we were preparing for an impending hurricane, for instance, or an aftermath of a natural disaster, are there things that should be obvious to us that we're not doing, or are there things that we don't know and realize that we should be doing?
Absolutely. In terms of electrical supply, the vast majority of Grand Cayman and the sister islands have what we call overhead power lines, and these are, I think, as everyone would assume, are easily damaged in the event of a hurricane or a major natural disaster. The byproduct of that is that most people will own a portable generator in order to have their appliances supplied until CUC can restore the power lines. There's a lot of risk associated with having portable generators and operating them, and we want to encourage the public to be aware of those risks, such as tying your portable generator into your main breaker at your house. That induces a risk to you as a homeowner, as well as the lineman that might be working to restore your power system. There's the potential for that portable generator to feed back into the power grid and potentially electrocute linesmen or the public. So we want to encourage the public to attach their devices directly to the power generator rather than trying to tie it into their house.
Now, Mr. Rankin, from that notion, we don't want to inadvertently, we're certainly hopefully we won't maliciously, not deliberately do anything to cause a fire or some other potential mishap. But sometimes we see the consequence.
Yeah, it happens, and best thing to do is listen to people like Mr. Darren over here, not to incorrectly hook these generators up, that to increase the potential risks to the linesmen, firemen, yourself, just general public, because like he said, it feeds back. You may think that because the CUC powers out that line is dead, but it's actually not.
Yeah, because that's being powered now, and the electricity can travel
by
down.
numerous generators throughout the island.
Goes in all directions.
Go right down and the like. When we come back, let's talk more about that. I think we have to take a break now, Mr. Tibbetts. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. When we come back from Talk Today, we actually rejoin our discussion. Please, stay tuned.
How would you like to drive off in a brand new 2019 all-white Mercedes-Benz CLA 250? On Saturday, June 1st at Mango Tree, you could be that lucky person. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents its annual charity fundraising event, Benzorama 2019. That's right, one lucky winner will be announced at the Mango Tree on Saturday, June 1st, and that lucky winner could be you.
If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Tickets are $25 each, or 5 tickets for only $100. Proceeds from the funds raised go towards various Lions community projects. Tickets can be purchased online at eventpro.ky, or stop by one of our ticket outlets, including Radio Cayman Studios, Funky Tangs, South Coast Bar, Reflections Food for Less, and West Bay Road SO, or can be purchased from any of our active Lions community members. Benzorama 2019. We are all winners once you support the Lions and our community.
Why my wife always asking if I'm in a rush when she's the one always making us late?
Might as well say, yeah, I'm in a rush and go buy the new Toyota Rush you've been talking about, because they on sale this month. That'll teach her.
The super special spring SUV sale at Vant Motors. Save up to $4,400 with SUVs starting at only $23,500, like the 7-seater Toyota Rush. Save money, get cash back, or use the discount to upgrade features on the SUV of your choice, including the Toyota RAV4, the Fortuner, the Rush, or the Ford EcoSport. It's our super special spring SUV sale. Only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Make a splash at the Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Be a part of the world's richest open water event with over $100,000 in cash and prizes to be won. 1 in 7 wins. Celebrating 27 years with Swim and Win. Random prizes including airline tickets to multiple European, Caribbean, and U.S. destinations, restaurant, water sport, and health and wellness certificates. No race day registration and limited to 1,000 swimmers. So register online today. Visit flowersseaswim.com for more information. All registration fees will be donated to the Special Olympics Cayman Islands. The 27th annual Flowers 1 Mile Sea Swim on Saturday, June 15th. Proud sponsors include the Flowers Group, the Department of Tourism, Davenport Development, Cayman Airways, Flow Cayman, and Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Men, we need your help. We can't do it without you. Right now, here in Cayman, boys are struggling. They need a friend, someone to mentor and guide them. They need you. More than money, they need your time. Just 1 hour a week is all it takes. Big brothers and big sisters need men who are willing to help our boys between the ages of 6 and 16. Please join us for an information session on June 3rd or 17th at 12:30, 4 or 5:30 p.m. For more information, email info@bbbs.ky or call Tracy and Taylor on 326-0610. Men, we need you.
For the Health of It is heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. It is brought to you by Holy Cross Hospital. Quality medical care and advanced technology with sincere compassion and understanding. Our mission is you. Call 1-954-351-5906 or visit Holy Cross Hospital at holy-cross.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today, and thanks so much for joining us. And I must, say that it is truly a great opportunity for our country to be able to assemble such wonderful individuals and to be mindful that together, we can make a response to whether it's a hurricane, its aftermath, or some other natural disaster, or even other issues, safe and as quick a response as possible to assist as many. And I'm grateful to have in our studio today the changing sort of composition of our panel. We have Dr. Julio Frederick Van Genderen. I always struggle with the last name, Dr. Julio. I get it right this time, though. Almost. Sounds pretty good, eh? When I work on my West Bay accent, it'll even get better. And join us now, Mr. Simon Vauxhall, the man who, if you need someone to blame as to why you're here, give Mr. Simon the credit. HMCI, Simon, thank you, honestly. I said it earlier, every year, even before, this time rolls around, you have your panel assembled, and it's part of the proactive planning, so thank you.
Thank you for having us so much. It's a great opportunity for us to get the message out.
All right. It is, I think, important for the country, and again, the good company of Mr. Dwayne Ebanks. Thanks very much, man. It's a pleasure to have individuals like yourself in our studio, because it shows well as the country goes forward, and as your agent friend to your right decides to Mr. Andrew McLaughlin. Oh, come on. That'll be the only thing today until we leave. How are you, sir?
Okay. Very good. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, representing the Airports Authority. And as I was just casting my mind around our table, we all represented in some aspect, because whether it's the importance of being safe, whether it's being able to cook, to have water, certainly, whether it's to be able to enter and exit the country, whether the goods that come through, sometimes the ports may not be available. We saw after Evan, Mr. McLaughlin, how the airport itself was truly invaluable.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. From the perspective now, as we look at the planning and preparation for hurricane season, and as people, maybe sometimes we take it for granted that, everybody else is taking care of that. If I were sitting from a distance and looking at the people here, I'm thinking, I got it easy because all the good people are assembled. It's kind of like the superheroes,
It's definitely very important to have the partnerships, and really we couldn't do it without people like Mr. McLaughlin and Dr. Julia Frederick Van Genderen. It's not an effort just by HMCI. We can't do it without the key stakeholders. We're just basically a coordinating agency that brings them together to get the job done. So they're the subject matter experts, and and Darren, obviously, at CUC. Thank you for all the work you do. I mean, every year they review their plans to ensure and build resilience into the system, so we get stronger and stronger.
I think this shares too the public sector, the private sector, the quasi sort of governmental organizations, what they call statutory authorities, that are like the individuals, the communities, the sort of programs. It is not just moving parts; it's a collective piece. And when we don't sort of respond from the sort of the seam, structured, strategic handle, it's not a chorus; it's chaos. Ooh,
maybe Andrew, you can talk about how we practice for like mass casualty management and incident command systems, because it sort of applies to what we're doing here too.
Yeah, at least twice a year, HMCI sponsors a course for mass casualty management and incident command system, and that's vitally important because, as Simon alluded to, we're training a cadre of people, and it's a very big cross section from RCIPS to the airport to HMS and HSA. We're training a cadre of people to be able to react quickly and efficiently to set up a response to any type of disaster, including natural disasters. And inside of those natural disasters or any other type of disaster, you need command and control. You need to know who's in charge, and you need to understand the process that's going to be going on. So we don't wait until the emergency happens. We practice for the emergency and hope that it never happens.
Forearmed, this is, to be forearmed, be forearmed, right? But Darren, we probably in Cayman specifically, on Grand Cayman, become accustomed. We come home, we turn on the switch, lights there. We go to adjust the AC from whatever setting to sub-zero freezing. We go to the top, the water is there. You see, I almost want to invite him to a discussion, but I'll be another time. But it is great that we have that level of reliability, whether it's water, whether it's electricity. But for some of us, maybe we're not being sufficiently mindful of not just only preserving it, but doing things to ensure that it's going to be there if something else happens. Securing some of the things, making sure that our trees, for argument's sake, are being secured, so the power line isn't. Little things that we can do that are significant.
Yeah. You mentioned trees. That's a big factor that we try to communicate as often as possible to maintain your the trees and the different vegetation that you may have in your property at a safe distance away from the power lines. Anything within 10 feet actually has to be trimmed by a CUC approved professional that can work at that proximity to the power line. Anything outside of that, you can hire kind of your general maintenance crews to handle. But it's absolutely essential because you're ensuring that the small section of line that goes between the pole and your house is safe and will be reliable in the event of a storm. There's not branches or something else that make contact with it.
I'm just looking at our WhatsApp, and a few comments came through here, and I kind of see which one was my lunch order. No, just kidding. But a few were sharing that, when they're preparing for hurricanes, hopefully I don't misunderstand this person's perspective, they find competing sort of pulls on their time. I should read it as the same. There's the home, there's the office, there are all these other things, and depending on the job, this person obviously has a fairly responsible job, a lot of demands, and suggests that we need to get our home affairs literally in order first, so that those other things that we need to do, maybe part of our employment, part of our volunteer commitments, we can still attend to that, and ask the panel any advice how to help to balance those things, so that you're serving, I guess, my interpretation, multiple masters.
Well, one of the things we do at the Water Authority is that we actually have sessions with our staff to give, especially at the beginning of the season, where we present special information, any guidance on creating their own plans for their own homes, other information about what relates to work or other things. And the idea behind this is just to continue to let them have that awareness that you need to take care of home and family first. You need to make sure that they're okay, because if they're not okay, it's going to be pretty hard for your staff to work and to put into the country what needs to be done. So we encourage them, make sure your family is okay. If there's an event pending, we ensure that our staff have sufficient time prior to go and shutter up or purchase things, and then we will ask them to come in and take care of what needs to be done for the Water Authority, and we send them home then to sit and wait until we need to recover.
Okay. As I was just looking at what the person message, reread it over again, and I'm thinking from the perspective of whether you're working with a private sector entity, whether you're working with a government entity, that time away from your desk, as it were, to take care of your personal affairs, to get them in order, so that customers who maybe serves with that department or with that person needs to be an understanding of the consequence. The employer, the immediate supervisors need to be on board as well, because you're going to be away maybe half a day, maybe a day, whatever it takes. And it's not an easy thing, Mr. Andrew.
No, I would agree. And we do all the things that were just spoken of, and we take it one step further because the airport is pivotal in any emergency. But we've split the management team, the chiefs and managers, into two teams. And at the onset, at some point when we realize that it's necessary, we break into two 12-hour shifts. So one team will work the first 12 hours, send the other team home to take care of their families, make sure everything's buttoned up, and then they'll actually return, and the other team can go off for 12 hours. And should anybody get stuck in the middle, we have the HR, Human Resources, has the authority to hire external contractors to actually go out to the house and board up the house and make sure the house is prepared for the storm. And that 12-hour shift, it doesn't stop when we close the airport to go home and wait for the storm to pass. The clock continues because we want to make sure that we have a cadre of people that with the right skills to reopen at the earliest point.
And then I can imagine, too, the safety of the populace in the Cayman context, not just those who live here, but the visitors. But then we want to be able to get back up and running in relation to our international finance and our obligations there. Maybe the general public, Simons and I, don't really appreciate the demands.
Well, certainly for these three people sat here who are all sort of part of very critical parts of the infrastructure, it's very reassuring to hear that they've got good plans in place, because that's really what it takes. And at the end of the day, what we've seen in past events, it's normally, a lot of the failure occurs because people can't show up to work. And so that having those sort of awareness sessions beforehand and sort of putting in place plans like this 12-hour shift system, it's so important. And we're happy to come along, hazard management and a number of departments, government agencies, private companies, and everybody calls us out. It's free. And we just sort of emphasize kind of some of those key preparedness aspects to ensure that, as Dr. Julia said, that they're prepared and able to actually get on with their job because they've got their house in order, so to speak, that they know that their families are safe, that they've got their preparedness stuff done, and maybe it's just a few things they have to do, like put the shutter up, rather than panic to trim back trees and do everything at the last minute, then, it's no chance. So, yeah, we harp on about it a lot, preparedness, but it really is so key. And particularly in terms of getting your family safe beforehand, you can't work if you're concerned that your family aren't safe.
But from that perspective, Darren, the idea that if we make this sort of process part of our, I don't want to call it a routine, but our daily life, so our yards, if we can, keep them properly pruned and trained and the like. I can think sometimes to my own yard, I need to move that there. That could be an issue. And the year passed, and then the year passed, and then the year passed. All of a sudden, a hurricane, I need to move that. How many of us are doing it, or how many are like my brothers who, it needs to be addressed, we address it right now. Yeah. There are different personalities, people some of us will wait.
Procrastinate.
Yeah, different levels of priority.
Ms. Julia?
Yeah, well, Darren spoke earlier about the trees and the branches. For the Water Authority, we have another problem with the trees, and that's the roots.
Yeah.
And part of our information that we share with the public is that please do not plant trees, big trees near your meter, because somehow or the other they're going to find and sense that there's water there, and you can have a very serious disruption or broken line if the tree tumbles and your meter is uprooted. So, the trees, you have to watch out for them.
We ask some people to switch off their water at the mains if they're leaving the house for that reason as well. You don't want to come back to a $2,000 water bill.
Well, that's actually a vital part of what we relate to customers. If you're leaving your home, shut off valve.
But from the other side, not from your side, right? Because it comes through the meter.
Every customer has a shut-off valve.
I'm sorry. Listen, I can give you a hard time today, right? Just for another couple minutes. She's like, no. But there's so many moving parts, and I think the interconnectedness of the different agencies here, I think is part of the reason why we've had such an amazing response. We do have a caller online, Dr. Julia from the Water Authority. The director joins us, Mr. Simon Vauxhall. It's the Darren Ebanks, and together with Mr. Andrew McLaughlin, our guests. Go to our phones. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dwayne, and your panel. And good to hear you discussing the possibilities for helping people in the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
I have one thing that I think somebody should look at, because I don't know who decided how to number houses and stuff like that. But the system, if somebody's going down the road and they're looking for a certain number, the chances are that they might find a number, or the next number that they think is going to be that number isn't there, because the numbers are done haphazardly, in my opinion, because I've seen numbers that are 4 or 5 numbers, beyond the number that it should be. You understand what I'm saying? They're not numbered consecutively. And the thing is that I wish that, like in the United States of America, I remember living there, that on one side of the road you got the odd numbers, and the other side you got the even numbers. So the odd numbers and the even numbers would run consecutively. So you would know that when you drive there, and if you see 102, you know the next one's going to be 104. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they do it. But in Cayman, believe me, some of the houses don't have numbers, and some of them are not numbered consecutively, and that's got to be a problem for when, somebody's not familiar with the neighborhood or something, and they go down in an emergency vehicle to try to find a sick person or something. And I think that would be something that should be looked at. I mean, you're not going to be able to do it now before this hurricane season is over, but it should be looked at in the future.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks so
I
much.
think that's Mr. Ackerman. Thank you for that. I remember discussing that with Mr. Alistair Ayres when it was being implemented, the numbering system, and I think that the reasoning behind it was the possibility that we would build with increased density over time, so they would leave some space for additional properties to be constructed and new numbers to be slipped in between the spaces. But I do appreciate what you're saying. It does seem a little confusing. I do think it's even numbers on one side of the road, though, and on the other it's...
Well, the system has improved, but for those who were involved early days probably have a different perspective. But we'll leave that for now. I still want my job come Monday. Tuesday will be a different story. Mr. Simon, I really appreciate you all seriously making this, a valuable contribution. And I know that we almost stayed to 1:30, so as you share.
Thank you so much for having us on. We really appreciate it every year. You just help out a lot. We appreciate it.
Radio Command is committed to it, and as we close out, with the greatest respect, gents, I always believe that we should always show deference to the ladies in our society. If I could, Mr. McLaughlin, maybe start with you, final thoughts.
Yeah.
Mr. Ebanks, and then leave the best for last.
Closing remarks, I should might say. But please, everyone, if you're listening, and pass it if you're not, to your friends and family, please make sure your travel documents are in order. They're in a safe place. They should be in a plastic bag so that you can grab them quickly. Don't wait till the last minute to decide to get a visa or something. It's going to be very difficult during the mass evacuation for those papers. The airport plan has changed now, so we'll be passing that out to the consuls very, very shortly. But we have a larger facility, and we're able to do a better job at handling larger crowds going through the airport to leave or to enter.
Steve Banks?
Yeah, earlier we talked a little bit about portable generators, and I just want to drive home some of the risks associated with that. In addition to the possibility of electrocution, there's also the toxic fumes that all portable generators will produce. That's carbon monoxide, and we encourage the listening public to make sure that their generators are placed outside in a well-ventilated area so that they're not at risk of inhaling those toxic fumes.
And you don't smell it and taste it, right? Mr. Boxall.
Thank you for all our partners who assist with the process of making Cayman stronger and more resilient. The two things I'd like to quickly get across: don't judge the systems by their category. We're focusing more now on the hazards, tornadic winds, sturge, wave action, rain, and we're aware too that the category, we can have a Category 1 or Category 2 bring 15, 20 foot of surge, and a Category 4 or 5 bring virtually none. And we're also concerned that a lot of people have anchored what we call anchoring. They've decided that their past experience of a very strong hurricane, like something like an Ivan, is they can't picture the possibility of anything possibly being worse, coming from a different angle with a broader wind field. Just here to tell you, the models have been run. We know we can get a 15 to 20 foot surge. We only saw about an 8 foot surge in Hurricane Ivan. So don't make a determination that your past experience is the worst you can possibly get. It's just not the case. It's unlikely we'll get hit by a massive storm, but you've got to be open to the possibility and tune into people like yourselves here on Radio Cayman, the local weather service, and so on, to get the information about what you can expect if a storm is bearing down on you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Dr. Gillia?
All right. Thank you very much. What I'd like to say to the general public is to ensure that you put together your personal plans for your family, and that certainly includes preparation for water, and that you have sufficient water to take your family, your pets, through at least 7 days. And please visit our website, www.waterauthority.ky. We have lots of information on there about preparation around your home with regards to water. So be safe, take care, be prepared, and keep informed.
Thank you all very much. And I offer up to you, whether as your respective agencies or individual, if we can help to get the message out, especially during impending national disasters we're here to offer. Radio Cayman is invaluable, as is your service. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll have some open lines when we come back. I will try hard to get in trouble. I will try hard not to get in trouble. See that? I'm just kidding. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
It's a sizzling summer sale at Island Interiors Limited. 3 days only. Sale starts on Thursday, May 30th and ends on Saturday, June 1st. Take up to a whopping 50% off those beautiful rugs. If you need furniture, fabric, lamps, bedspreads, and cushions, drop by Island Interiors and take 20% off those items. Ready to go custom drapes, drapery hardware, and accessories are marked down by 15%. Don't forget to pick up some paintings to jazz up your walls and take 15% off. Also, any new orders placed for drapes or furniture during the sale will receive 15% off. Island Interiors Limited, located at 125 Dorsey Drive, across from the airport post office. Call 949-6262. Sizzling summer sale hours are Thursday and Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. until 4 p.m.
The 18th Annual Talent Exposition of the Arts, Sunday, June 30th at the Hockwell Theatre, is brought to you by the new Self-Help Community Foundation. This event is proudly sponsored by Rubis Eastern Avenue, Savannah, Red Bay and Jose's, Rainbow Realty, Cayman National, Mitsubishi, Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands, Borden Corporate Services, L&T Tires, Island Heritage, Reliable Industries, Markson's Furniture, Ministry of Health and Culture, and Muck Russ. Prepaid tickets for the 2019 Talent Exposition of the Arts at the Hockwell Theatre are available at Funky Tanks and Winter Circle Sports for $10 or $15 at the gate.
How would you like to drive off in a brand new 2019 all-white Mercedes-Benz CLA 250? On Saturday, June 1st at Mango Tree, you could be that lucky person. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents its annual charity fundraising event, Benzorama 2019. That's right, one lucky winner will be announced at the Mango Tree on Saturday, June 1st, and that lucky winner could be you.
If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Tickets are $25 each, or 5 tickets for only $100. Proceeds from the funds raised go towards various Lions community projects. Tickets can be purchased online at eventpro.ky, or stop by one of our ticket outlets, including Radio Cayman Studios, Funky Tangs, South Coast Bar, Reflections Food for Less, and West Bay Road SO, or can be purchased from any of our active Lions community members. Benzorama 2019. We are all winners once you support the Lions and our community.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community. A traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way. Positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Have you just completed a weekend cleanup project? Do you plan to dispose of old appliances, electronics, or even hazardous waste? Dispose of these items at the 24-hour drop-off site located at the entrance of the Georgetown landfill. This site is open to the public daily for your convenience. Do your part. Keep Cayman clean. For more tips on proper waste handling, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us. And as scheduled, we now have an opportunity for some open line for the remainder of our program. Invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. Very, very grateful every year for the incredible initiative and effort of HMCI for helping us to facilitate this roundtable discussion, and the agencies represented through the individuals present, whether it's the Red Cross, whether it's civil aviation, the fire service, the water, electric utilities, whether it was we have a chance to see how important this whole idea of being prepared and our planning is relative to our safety, our security, our stability, and being able to recover. So that level of sort of business continuity has to run across from our own homes. We have individual plans so that we know exactly what is it that we should do. Perhaps we can get a CERT program in our own area. Perhaps if there's one, we can get involved with it. Becoming prepared, equipped, and that may give us greater confidence, certainly would improve our skill sets, and certainly would position us to be able to help ourselves and help each other, and not necessarily have to rely on, quote-unquote, the government or external agencies or even, international relief efforts. Good that they are available, but sometimes if we can respond and assist ourselves, maybe that response will be more immediate, will be more timely. Not only that, but it may be exactly what you need then and there. It's open line 949-8037 or 949-6990. Let's laugh and have fun, but let's be serious at the same time about what's important. So I invite you to share your thoughts with us and give us your perspective. Now, last evening, a number of you may have attended the public meeting at the Georgetown Town Hall, the cruise port referendum. The CPR group had a discussion. It was very encouraging that the supervisor of elections was able to attend and address. Some of you may have been able to watch it, live on social media and the like. I looked at the press release that was relayed through the government at, I made sure at the time, it was almost 6 o'clock, 5:41 p.m. And as the press release read, I had a couple of people who have perhaps seen it since, not questioning how they accessed it or the like at the time. And I wanted to read it and then maybe invite you to share your thoughts with us. So it says the supervisor of elections, this was issued just before 6 p.m. yesterday evening. It says the supervisor of elections met with the cruise port referendum group on Tuesday, the 29th of May, that was this week, to discuss the process of the people-initiated, this says the people-initiative referendum, perhaps the people-initiated referendum, that should be, according to the Command's Constitutional Order 2009. Okay. It should be noted that whilst the process was discussed, no signatures were provided to the elections office. Mr. Wesley Howell, is the supervisor election, will be in attendance at a public meeting on Thursday, so that was last evening, at the Georgetown Town Hall from 6 to 8 to speak more on the matter. This is the highlighted part that people forwarded to me. It says the process towards the people-initiated referendum involves the following stages. The staff of the elections office will conduct an independent verification of the petition signatures in accordance with constitutional requirements under Section 90 and Section 71B of the referendum. Elections office officials will ensure the provided referendum signatures corresponds with the current electoral register, which we understand from public sentiments from the members of the CPR group. That's what they were sort of doing in the formula, so that when they presented, that they would match. And then it goes on and says, as part of the verification method under the law, manual checks will also be conducted by elections office officials with each petitioner to ensure signature validity. Now, that was the part that's highlighted to me, and I'll maybe ask you to help me to understand that. But let's go to our phones. Good afternoon. Welcome you on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Sterling. How are you doing?
My good friend, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. Listen, I just called in so, give you an overview as to what took place at the meeting last night.
Oh, thank you very much.
Certainly, we want to thank the election office and Mr. Howell for agreeing to come out and take on public questions pertaining the next steps in terms of verification for the referendum. And what we found out when we met with Mr. Howell and his team on Tuesday was that this is a brand new process. This is something that has never been done before in the Cayman Islands, certainly, and probably anywhere in the Commonwealth. But to be very clear, Mr. Howell and his team is also, tracking down new territory. So there's no written procedure in terms of how the verification process is to take place. So they just pretty much go in as it comes. They're trying to put a process in place that is very similar to the one they use under one man, one vote. Mr. Howell highlighted that he had to get a team of people, not just his office, but people from the ESO department, in order to assist with the door-to-door exercise to verify signatures. And they visited a number of between 19 to 20,000 individuals to verify during the one man, one vote. So that's a similar approach they intend to take during this process, because, again, the one man, one vote was a new process. This is a new process. It's unfortunate that our legislators saw the need to put in the Constitution in 2009 a right for people's initiated referendum. However, they fell short by not writing a referendum law so that the procedure after the trigger would have been very clear in the Constitution as to what is to take place in terms of verification.
If I may, with great respect, just interject 1 second. I understand what you shared, and I think with everybody else, equally agree that we want to make sure that the person signing the petition, triggering a referendum, not because of the expense, but because of the importance, more so, that, John Ebanks is a registered elector, yes. John Ebanks lives here, this is his signature, fair enough. But the UK, did they not have a referendum recently that determined that they were going to leave the European Union, which to them probably was as significant, if not more so, than our call for a referendum with respect to the port? Do we know what the UK did in order to ensure the validity? Because this especially says, election officials are going to do manual checks, as you just reference, with each petitioner. So that means each one of us has signed it to ensure signature validity. Now, it sounds nice and flowery, but I'm sure.
Well, I think that the process is not clear on either side, meaning that obviously CPR and all its volunteers and its members are not aware of any procedure that is in place anywhere within the Commonwealth in terms of a people-initiated referendum. Our Constitution in Section 70 doesn't have any clear guidelines as to what the procedure is after a trigger of 25% of the electorate. However, the situation that we currently face now is where individuals who participated in signing this petition did so on their own validity, obviously, and then we cross-reference every single person that we verified with a list that was provided by the election office, with the respective registration numbers, the address, and the name. Now, however, we are all aware that most people change addresses, periodically. A lot of people get married and their name changes. Some people are deceased. Now, the reality is that, yes, there is a process, and in the Constitution doesn't say that the verification process has to be done by the election office. So there's a lot of gray areas.
But, sir, I mean, I don't wish to be disrespectful to you, but, and I certainly don't want the politicians and anybody else decide that they want to take me on and consider my comments to be inflammatory. But if you're trying to support democracy and you have people signing a petition asking for something, and those names correlate with the electoral register, the list of eligible voters, this process seems to be, and the reason why I can say this is that this morning 3 individuals took me to task as a civil servant and suggest that this is just another way of the government, and by that one of them said, "You, the government," pointing at me. I said, "I'm not elected." Frustrating democracy. They were very much adamant that all this will do is try to delay something and again deny the democratic rights of people to have a referendum on this issue. Now, one of them, and he's told me I can say this, he was going to vote yes, let's get on with the port, this is enough. He's now thinking, you know what, this is a bullying tactic. Have the referendum, I'm going to vote no. Now, that may be what he said just to say what he said because he was infuriated, but how do we look at this whole issue to now take a manual check of almost, over 5,000 signatures?
Well, I think, Sterling, let's just be fair across the board, right? I think everybody have the right to their own personal opinion as to what the process is and the reasons why the government has taken, or the election office has taken this position to take this process. Again, it's not for CPR or any member of CPR to evaluate everybody's opinion in terms of what the process is. However, I think we can all agree that there has to be a simpler process of verification, especially when a voter's ID card is issued by the election office. So therefore, the validity of that card should have already passed the test of genuineness in terms of using that as a platform to verify a signature. So at the end of the day, for me, I try to see it from a fair standpoint, coming from the election office, coming from the concerned citizens, people's opinions. Now here's where I believe that the cabinet, because it speaks specifically to cabinet once the trigger has been made, that they set the date, they set the question, and they set the tone of the referendum. I think now that the government should have had an opportunity to evaluate this current situation, where I think that if there were anybody on that signatory list that wishes to have contradicted anything that we have said publicly for the last couple of weeks, they would have said so, and it would have been a huge public outcry and said, oh, well, we didn't sign any petition, or these are the situations. I think the government has a responsibility for good governance and to respect the wishes of the people, and coupled with that, to represent the truest form of democracy. So I think that cabinet should come in now and work with CPR and the volunteer group and all individuals who signed this and trigger this referendum, get the signatures verified by the process of the election, issued IDs and registration numbers, and have this process move forward. The problem is that we're now faced in a head-on campaign paid for by the people against the people, and that's the government.
Right.
Because we've seen now on a press release on the date that we had our meeting that the government will be receiving the final bids today, and then later on in the upcoming month they're going to reveal, who that winner is, the process, the design, and the date for moving forward. Now, obviously, one with any reasonable mindset would have to ask the question: how could the government possibly, conceivably, be moving forward with a project that has such huge public controversy, where we had to have a petition, and now we have submitted the idea that we have the percentage required by the Constitution, which we intend to submit in the next couple of days for verification. Why would the government insist on setting a date to move forward with a project which can be decided and will be decided by a referendum? And these are the underlying issues that we have from the very beginning. So yes, there is a conversation to be had as to why the government, after 10 years of enshrining a new constitution, which is the very same administration, I might add, why they didn't put the task in place in the very early stages to put a referendum law, so that the guidelines were clearly stipulated as to what the process was after the fact.
Right.
Why is it? And why is it that the government is not practicing good governance in terms of respecting the wish of the people? And then the next question to be asked is, why is the deputy governor and the governor sitting on the sidelines allowing this to unfold?
Right. My friend, if you would be most gracious, allow us to pause to go to the news break. To the callers in the queue, we want to hear from you, but respectfully, let us take this, and when we come back, you know what? Talk to me. Stay tuned for talk.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Did you know in the 15 years that we've been discussing the birthing facility, our competitors have pressed on with construction and now welcome the larger ships that pass us by? It's time we build our piers.
Looking forward, looking bright.
Learn more and spread the word.
Support our port, support our tourism.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger licking good.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Final bids from the companies vying to construct the cruise berthing piers and expanded cargo facility are due to be submitted to government tomorrow. A release from the Ministry of Tourism says this marks the successful completion of another significant milestone in the project's procurement process. The news comes just hours before a public meeting is to be held by CPR Cayman, a group petitioning for a referendum on the project. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines in news elsewhere. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced a new cabinet in which, for the first time in the country's history, half of all ministers are women. In another unexpected move, one of the women is from the opposition. He appointed veteran opposition politician Patricia De Lyle, who had stood for the Good Party as Minister of Infrastructure Development. U.S. actor Ashton Kutcher testified in a L.A. courtroom that he called on a young woman's home for a date in 2001, not realizing she lay dead inside. When the woman, Ashley Ellerin, did not answer the door, Mr. Kutcher said he looked in her window and saw what he thought were wine stains on the floor. Mr. Kutcher said in a court on Wednesday he was freaking out when he learned that Ellerin, who was 22 at the time, had been murdered. And weighing little more than an apple at birth, Sabi is the smallest baby to ever survive at 8.6 ounces, or 245 grams. Sabi weighed little more than an apple at birth and is believed to be the world's smallest baby to survive, and that's according to the Tiniest Babies Registry. Her birth was so premature, doctors considered her a micropreemie, a baby born before 28 weeks gestation. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
How would you like to drive off in a brand new 2019 all-white Mercedes-Benz CLA 250? On Saturday, June 1st at Mango Tree, you could be that lucky person. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman presents its annual charity fundraising event, Benzorama 2019. That's right, one lucky winner will be announced at the Mango Tree on Saturday, June 1st, and that lucky winner could be you.
If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Tickets are $25 each, or 5 tickets for only $100. Proceeds from the funds raised go towards various Lions community projects. Tickets can be purchased online at eventpro.ky, or stop by one of our ticket outlets, including Radio Cayman Studios, Funky Tangs, South Coast Bar, Reflections Food for Less, and West Bay Road SO, or can be purchased from any of our active Lions community members. Benzorama 2019. We are all winners once you support the Lions and our community.
At Powerhouse Gym, where you feel like home in a multicultural energy environment for all. They are dedicated to helping you achieve your fitness goals. Whether you have decided to get in shape, train for a specific sport, boost your energy levels, or even look your best for a special day. With a variety of sports options, group fitness classes, CrossFit outdoor gym, they provide personal trainers and equipment. Powerhouse Gym, King Sports Center, offers a complete health and recreational environment for the only sports and recreational facility only of its kind in the Cayman Islands. For more information, call 946-5464. Email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. Powerhouse Gym. King Sports Center. Serious results. Period.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. It is open line for the remainder of our program and we want to hear your thoughts as we go to our phones. Welcome, you're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, man. Excellent. Yeah.
Dwayne, let me tell you a surprise. You remember when this government formed 2 weeks or something before, I told you that UDP and PPM will be joining together in one government, and you don't believe me. So I'm going to tell you a new thing.
Okay, go right ahead, man.
And you will see it will happen.
Ah, okay.
There is no referendum will happen. To referendum will not happen.
Okay.
I tell you what is the government reasons will be. There is a section in the Constitution which is what is the best interest of the country. That means the cabinet have the right to not to do a referendum if the matter in the best interest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that section allow cabinet to not do a referendum. And it's in the Constitution. And I am not a lawyer,
mm-hmm.
but I want those who read the Constitution very good.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I read it long time, I remember this section in particular, which is allow the cabinet to do what is in the best interest of the country as an elected government who elected by the majority of the people of this country, and they have the right not to do the referendum. The second thing, I see those group for the referendum. I see some people who have attention to run next election. They jump the wagon and they are in the media every day, and they are, they trying to put for themselves a seat for next election.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems it's an early campaign for the next election.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did say before that, I question this group. I question the funding of this group and who behind this group. I always question about this group and what is really their real attention. As
right.
I question the other side, I question them.
Right. If I may ask of you, though, and I don't want to belabor too much, but from the perspective of a referendum on an issue about the port, whether we should build the port, where and how it's planned and the like, do you think, your opinion, your informed opinion, that's an issue for a referendum, or do you think it should be something for the elected government to do like they would with building roads or anything else?
You see, look, Dwayne, I think the elected government being elected by the majority of the people of this country. So this government have the support of the majority of the people of this country.
So you're in favor of them doing it in no referendum? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is I think my opinion, my personal
Your personal opinion
about the board.
Mm-hmm.
I am not with board in Georgetown. It have to be out of Georgetown.
Right. So the issue of having a referendum on an issue with respect to the port, where, how much it costs, where it's going, the whole. Do you think that that's a national discussion, perhaps decided by some sort of referendum, or should it be for the elected government, whatever the majority, whatever the percentage, it's the elected government of the day making a policy decision that this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and how it's going to look, and what's it going to cost, and who's going to build it, and all of the things that a policy decision would entail. I just want to be specific. A referendum vote that the national populace get a chance to share, or a decision by the elected politicians to decide.
You see, when people go to election last time,
Mm-hmm.
they choose 19 members. And those 19...
I only voted for one, so I mean, I didn't pick out 19.
Yeah, I mean...
I just teasing you, but yeah.
Yeah, get the majority of support of the people of this country. And I think the government, people need to leave the government who is in power
mm-hmm.
to do the what their program. But yes, we need to question the government.
Right.
I question the government many
I'm
times.
deliberately trying to draw to you because you left me not clear. Is this decision for the government, in your opinion, or for a vote by referendum for the people to decide? Which way are you leaning? Is it your view that government decides this, or it should be a referendum issue? The port, specifically.
You see, and as I told you, the referendum will not happen.
So no, I understand that. That's the political side. But from your perspective, if you had to say, which one would you agree on? Should it be that the people have to say, but the government, they have this way? What's your view?
My view is, when I see what is the attention of the people doing the
mm-hmm.
issue of referendum,
mm-hmm.
is not the attention of the country. That's why I see now that we leave the elected government to their program, and we judge the result. We judge the result after when next election coming. If they did wrong, we punish them. We don't elect them.
Sounds like a plan.
That's my opinion, and I think Dwayne, if everything the government need to do, there is some people jump up because their personal interest to get elected next election, or they want something to make money from by sitting in the radio and talking and collecting some money. It is not right.
Well, it's interesting. I appreciate you.
The government, everything the government have they want to do, we have to tell them we're doing a referendum. My opinion change because in just one thing change. This referendum will not happen because I know this section of the Constitution is there, and the government have the right to use it.
Right. Now, do me a favor, if you would, please. Do me a favor. You'll have your sources. Look at that section so that we can know where it is. I'll look at it again to see if I understand it, and then you can enlighten us as to what section to which you refer. It's good that you acknowledge that you're changing position. You know what? Maybe that's how things roll. Respectful though. Do those two things. Leave us there. Let us go to the other line. Answer this call. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you today?
Man. Listen, as the minutes roll on, I get better. As the days evolve, I improve, man.
You're lucky today. This is my second call for the day. I don't do that very often.
Well, sometimes, when something's so good, you should go back for seconds.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the things that what the Jordina was talking about, made sense to some of the stuff he said. But I wanted to say talking about the because that you had on this morning 2 things. One is about the hurricane season and what we should do, and water and all that kind of thing, and how people run out of water. But I'll tell you what I do, and it's very easy if you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I catch the water off the roof of my house, and I take it, and I, wait till when the rainy season comes, your roof is pretty clean. That's what old people used to do. They used to take it away, and then wait till the rainy season comes, and then the roof is washed off, so there's no dust and anything like that on the roof.
Right.
And you catch that water. You have a nice container where it's a 50-gallon drum if you got one of them, or something like that. And then when that water is caught, before you drink it, you got a coffee maker. All you got to do, fill the bowl with the coffee. With the water, and or you can some of them just pour it inside the thing, and it comes out in the coffee pot. But you just filter the water like that because you got filtering system. And then you can drink that when that water is cold. You put it, you catch some of these nice plastic bottles. Like I use the bottles from the cran apple juice and stuff like that. Yeah, you wash them out and you fill them up with water.
And you can't clear.
That lasts for months like that. It's not gonna spoil.
Right.
And you have it, and then you run short of water, you'll have water in something.
Yep.
But I don't know why people don't think about things like that, because I guess we get so used to the convenience of turning a tap and get the water, and we don't think about.
But there is that too. But also, I think if you look at some of the publications that cater to the new residents in particular, we talk about the unsafety aspects of our water, the rainwater, the well water, and the like. And then you may look at some of the practices that are being encouraged by official sources. It is to openly discourage the things that you have shared.
Yeah, that's what they do.
All right. Listen, anything else you want to share with us?
No. The other thing I was going to say was that I want to see us get in the law that nobody can do more than 2 terms in the Legislative Assembly, because they got some in there now that have been there 20-something years and more, and they become complacent because they're in there. And they know that they have this constituency that no matter what they do, you give them a couple of $100 every month or something like that, which you can afford with the salary they're making now, and they continue to stay there doing nothing.
Yeah, well, there is the argument for the term limits. There's also
we don't have term limits, man.
Yeah, the corresponding side that maybe the ultimate people to decide should be the voters and not take that away. But thank you for that, sir. And
but the poor voters, when you got people that beholden to you, and you threaten them, these are poor people that are not working, and you tell them and you go around and tell them when it comes election time, well, if you don't vote for me, them guys not going to give you the money and this stuff like that is BS, and they know it. This is what they do.
Well, again, voters need to become more active, informed, and engaged and involved. Respectfully, thank you for that. We have a very quick commercial break. Callers in the queue, and I want to hear from them. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Stay up to date with the latest in healthy living and fitness trends every Saturday morning at 9:30 and Wednesday at 7 p.m. For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Most clinics in the United States, they kind of like one surgery fits all. You're saying, that's not necessary. That's not going to be the case with me. And that's good to hear.
For the Health of It is proudly brought to you by GNC. Join the GNC community and take advantage of their discount days. The first 7 business days of every month and every Wednesday. GNC. Believe in the power of nutrition.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today. Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It's open line. Let's go to our phones. Thank you so much for sharing. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Okay. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, Sterling. Good afternoon.
Welcome back again, and thank you for, again, our apologies for having to sort of interject and interrupt our conversation.
It's all good, Sterling. I just need to call back to clarify a few things that Amjad took upon himself to speak of. Now, obviously, I'm in the best interest of accurate information, and I just want to inform the listening public who may have heard him say something that's not accurate. There's nothing in the Constitution that states that Cabinet have the right to act on behalf of the best interest of the people. Zero. What he's referring to, and since he say he know the Constitution so good, maybe he should refer back to that section. It says clearly that if there is a matter of national importance to the people of the Cayman Islands, they have the right to petition, to voice their opinion so that they can trigger a referendum. So, I don't know, and the fact that he highlighted that he predicted that the UDP and the PPM would become marriage and union and form the government, a child, blindfolded, crippled in China could have saw that. So he didn't do anything spectacular. Everybody in Cayman knew that. Because we know that there is no enemies in politics. And anybody would sell their firstborn child for their own political sovereignty. We've seen that. That's the landscape of Cayman. And it's very simple. And nobody hides behind the fact that that's not the case. So I just want to make it very clear to the listening public. There will be a referendum. Now, we can't control Cabinet in terms of how they word the question under the current law. We can't control the Cabinet sets for the referendum under the current law. We can't control those things. But that doesn't mean that there are not actions to be taken in terms of trying to have a fair process across the board. Because there's legal options which will be taken. So the reality is that we must be very careful in what we say on the radio when we come to citizens who think that they know what they're saying, when they're actually misleading and misguiding people. The Cabinet has no right, under no law, under no constitution, to stop a democratic process that is afforded to the people of this country in the Constitution under Section 70. So I suggest Mr. Amjad go and read Section 70 of the Constitution. It's a matter of national importance. Now, granted, I will say this to his credit, that he got his information 50% right, because we too heard a rumor that the government was going to try to get legal advice as to whether or not this is a matter of national importance, so that they can try to throw out the petition and say that it's not a matter of national importance. Now, I can tell you that that is certainly not the case, and that the government has no grounds to throw this petition out. If these signatures are verified, we will have a referendum, and I can assure you that that is the truest form of democracy, and that is the people's right, and that is the only platform that the people will have an opportunity to have their say. So, and then for him to insinuate on this radio on numerous occasions, even when I was in studio, that people are doing these things for erroneous reasons, or for self-serving reasons, and they're sitting on the radio and being paid. What Mr. Amjad should probably enlighten the public on is, what is his motivations? We can easily accuse him of the very same things, but you see, we take the high road. We focus on the issues. We try to focus on the things that are important to Caymanians and the consensus. And remember, Sterling, I must mention this because it's very important. We have the highest percentage in any country in the world to trigger a referendum, 25% of the electorate. Also, we got to have 50+1 in order to win the referendum. Again, the highest in the world. So for anybody to say that the government has a mandate over the consensus of the people on a bar that was set so high, and we've met that obligation, and now for someone to come on the back end of this to try to defeat this entire effort and try to go against 25% of the electorate, which is over 5,288 signatures, it is unreasonable, it's unfair, and it's something that we need to have a look at. And we need to have some sort of policy in place that prevent people, including the government, to undermining the process that is given to us constitutionally. And this is the conversation that we need to have moving forward, because once this precedent has been set, the government has to write a referendum law. They need to write a referendum law. We have to have clear language as to what is the procedure after a trigger is met. And we shouldn't have had to have a meeting with the election office. We shouldn't have had to have a public meeting to educate the public. You know why? Because it should have been already written within our Constitution. We should have had a referendum law. The Constitution has been enshrined into our society for 10 years. 10 years. Why haven't the election office made recommendations? Why haven't the cabinet made recommendations? Why haven't they hired somebody to write the referendum law 8 years ago? Because now we wouldn't be faced with this issue. And this is the issue. Mr. Steve Maxfield asked that very important question at the meeting last night. And of course, the election supervisor had no answers. You know why? Because there was no answers to give. When you have a blank page given as an example, then what are you going to draw from that other than something that don't exist? Mr. Howell never said anything out of his remit because there was nothing there for him to say. All he did was answer a myriad of questions in which were standard. Because, okay, what is the timeline? Well, the timeline, there's nothing said in the Constitution in terms of the timeline. What is the verification process? Well, there's no verification process, but this is what we think as the election supervisor and election office is the best way forward based on what we've done with one man, one vote. So that's what's taking place. That is the involvement that's happening now. So we as CPR and volunteers and all of those people who sign, we have to be very, very cautious, and we have to be very, very focused on what this process ends up looking like. So that's why we have to have a legal team. That's why we have to ensure that this process has the best opportunity moving forward. And we're not willing to sit down and accept some diluted process in order to derail this process, because you're not doing it against CPR, you're doing it against 5,400 people registered to vote in this country who have the democratic right to vote. So I just want to clarify all of that, because for Amjad to get on the radio and say that there will be no referendum because Cabinet have the right under some law in the Constitution that is a figment of his imagination, I thought that I should set the record straight. So I won't be calling back in, and I hope that, you know, when people call in with information that is not correct, that we take them to task and say, please, can you tell me what section of the Constitution in which you are speaking of, and can you read directly from it, because we cannot have this type of information being disseminated in our public and people get confused because us as activists and people who do this for genuine reasons, okay, have to have a fair playing field, because we're trying to set examples moving forward. We're not troublemakers. We are people who are trying to create accountability and trying to create a sustainable environment, trying to create a Cayman for tomorrow. And that's all we're trying to do. And if they want to paint me with a brush as being some activist or some troublemaker because I'm doing those things, by all means, you can put me on the poster, you can put me on the billboard, because that's the responsibility I feel that I have to my 3 children. So I'll leave you there and listen to the rest of the show.
Hey, thank you very much for sharing, and I believe you have time for one final call. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hi, Sterling.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. I just called to say a few things, and that's it. You know, Mr. Georginian, his machete is cutting on both sides today. I'm happy for him. He must be getting a really, really good salary to come on and say what he say. Or his status is ready for him to become a Caymanian. I'll leave it at that, Sterling. I thank you so much.
All
Have
right.
a great one.
You do
Bye-bye.
the same.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, one more call, and that's it, my good friends. 949-837, 949-6990. And invite you to share your thoughts with us. That's it for the day, my friend. Yeah. No more calls? All right. One more. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, Sterling. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, man. How are you?
Yeah, there's a hard month. But Sterling, you 2 minutes and wrapping up now.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
You think that's this one, right? Everybody have the perception or the board is confidence to vote now, right? Listen, it's astrologer. Anywhere in the world, right? If you capitalist socialism, communism, you have political paralysis. Some stalling. You gotta tell you, I support the port. You gotta tell you, full to 100, right? I work in my water break now in different everybody telling me it needed. Like this the demographic or whatever. It's telling where call about the stuff, you know. Like, I don't elaborate about the pork business, right now. What call about though? The herbs that it legalize, right? Because we operate in like some police state, like the Philippines. Hello, that it legalize full of selling. We full of recreation, harmony, serenity, and the capital. Right, because I know police for the shit over. Yeah, tell you. When those narcotics missing, cocaine missing, it's an extra. You can have with that, right? And don't give the harbor with the heroin. You can have with that. Yeah, tell you.
Right.
The herbs delegalized to the fullest. It's telling if it takes me, right, to run, right. For example, as a protege, finesse it. And marinate it, right? Shut it down. I gotta do it now. But I hesitate, reluctant, because the boundary. You understand? You must have a lane that we storm about with it. You understand? Okay. But differently, that more one thing. That is a cause. Listen, the whole world, listen, currencies, globally circulating, pumping monies. You tell you? There's no liquidation, nothing like that. But it came out to get a hard time. Huh? Boy, tell you, boy. But that's how it is now. Listen, those are listening is gone now. Yes, we caused by error. Modern days selling. Then, like I say again, before I finish, I support the port, right? Whatever the outcome be, I support it to the fullest. Because, listen, the population going. You can't stop that. You got to get limited eventually. But you're going. So, hello, you got to go to the port. You're in the facelift. Yeah, some sacrifice will happen. Something will happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right, listen, enjoy it. Thank you very much. And I believe that's that for today. Well, it's nothing if it isn't an active and engaged populace. Hopefully we'll continue to be informed and involved, and hopefully as we move about our communities, we're constructive and productive. We're certainly safe, we're certainly respectful, and we're sensible and civil with respect to our actions. Enjoy your weekend. Certainly continue to listen to Radio Cayman, whether you want good music, be informed through our news, or you just want to be otherwise engaged. Come back Monday morning for the record will start. Please join us Monday for our monthly Mental Health Matters and Talk Today returns. Until then, be blessed.